Hello again. Well, by dint of a lot of tidying up and some clever camera angles, I'm able to get the second bench in the workshop working again. It's usually covered in lots of junk, which is entirely not what I want. Anyway, what have I got today? Well, no surprise really, it's a gramophone. Now, this is a rather sorry example that I picked up just the other day, and I bought a few sorry example gramophones, not all of which I've actually done videos about yet, but this one has a couple of interesting features. And first one, or the first important feature, was that it was very cheap. I actually got it for the price of £1. Now, it is in a bad state. The handle on the top, or the handle on the side, is completely shot. It's all peeling. All the metalwork is all rusty. Anyway, let's have a look inside. Now, yep, what a sorry state that is. Lots of rust. The velvet on the turntable or the platter is completely shot. But what caught my eye was this rather unusual sound box. I mean, surely a plastic sound box? Surely not. Now, it does actually come off relatively easily. It says made in England on the back, and it is indeed a plastic sound box with metal parts, and it is missing its little screw. So I'm going to have to hunt around and see if I can find something to fit that. Being English and probably no later than the 1950s, that's definitely not going to be metric. It's probably going to be BA or something like that. Anyway, put that to one side for the moment. Now, a few other points to note. I think this arrangement up here, it's got a screw and some pads there. I think that's basically so you can put your records on, maybe with bits of cardboard between them and some sort of wing nut or something for carrying. The winding handles here, I mean, it's a pretty small winding handle. The wooden bit doesn't revolve, and that's one of the many little things which indicates to me this is basically a cheapy gramophone. I mean, there's no maker's name on it anywhere. The tone arm itself, which is actually in pretty good condition considering the amount of rust everywhere else on it, you know, doesn't articulate. It's basically just a sort of universal joint there. It also doesn't really seem to fit into this holder here at all. And it does actually have a sort of slot for a locating pin for the sound box, which that sound box, the blue one, doesn't actually have. So maybe the sound box isn't original to the gramophone. And there's various other bits. There's a very simple speed control here. That's quite rusted, so it is chromed, but the rust is coming through. And here is the brake, or at least here's what remains of the brake. The brake is definitely not functioning anymore. There's basically a whole chunk of it missing. It's clearly broken off at some point. Now, one other point that I spotted was that there are actually a few missing screws. Well, at least there's one missing screw there. I think there's a screw there, a screw there, a screw there, and a screw there. That suggests it's been to pieces. And actually, the platter rotates back and forth rather too easily, in my opinion. Implies to me that probably the motor is broken or damaged, or maybe the spring is gone. It's likely to be the spring. Anyway, let's open up and have a little look. Now, it's possible the platter will come off. Let's give that a bit of a... No, I don't think that's going to move in a hurry, so let's try taking a few screws out. Right, there we go. And the magic is, of course, that it's empty because the motor's underneath. So, oh yes, I forgot. There is a little tin of needles. These say Songster Golden Pickup. They look a bit corroded, so I think they're steel needles with some sort of coating, probably so you didn't have to change them every record. But anyway, I think curiosity value only those. So anyway, the main attraction. Well, there is the motor. Now, there is a hole for the winding handle in the front, but I didn't have a lot of luck getting it through the hole. So, for the sake of argument, let's try putting the handle in here and see what happens. I can see the mounts for the motor are completely shot. They definitely need changing. Right, well, I'm putting a few turns on the motor. I think the tone arm really needs to come off as well, but let's persevere. I'm putting turns on the motor, and I can see the cog here, which hopefully is visible on camera, go round and round, but there is like nothing happening. Oh, I don't know. No, we got a little bit of action out of it. So maybe the motor is okay. Yep. It's a miracle, but we do appear to have a working motor. So maybe it was just like very wound down, which I suppose is possible, especially as there's no working brake on it, so it would have just wound down. So yeah, I was pretty convinced from initial inspection that that motor was completely stuffed. But that's actually looking quite hopeful. So, I think the next step is going to be to see if we can get it to play. Okay, well, I put it back together again now. And I've wound it up a bit. Now I've had to take the escutcheon thing off the front a bit because I couldn't get the winding handle in the hole. It's obviously misaligned, but it does actually wind after a fashion. And I got the screwdriver jammed in here because there's no brake, so it's basically to stop it spinning around. I've got my little Arduino based speed tester, and we'll give it a go and see what speed it's doing. That's showing 79. That's not so bad. That's certainly close enough for our purposes. So let's jam that under there again. Now, I found a little screw to go into the sound box. I don't know what size it is actually. I've just got this little tub here of small screws, which contain lots of high quality screws which somebody presumably recovered from equipment, or they were surplus at some point in the past. They're very nicely made. I really don't know what they're for, but they're dead handy for this sort of thing. Anyway, needle in the sound box back on the gramophone. Set the angle to something sensible. And we'll have a bit of this record here. Now, I honestly have not tried this, so It'll be interesting to hear what it sounds like.
But no part is so social and it's cold all the crew that fire down below. For the big young man, me boy, which he quickly made reply. Next day was dead.
Well, what can I say? That is a completely working gramophone for £1, and literally the only thing I've had to supply is the little screw for the sound box and a fresh needle. Now the sound box is actually, I'm sure, pretty cheap and nasty, but it doesn't sound too bad. It's certainly going to be worth a comparison with some of my other sound boxes, and I can't help feeling that there's supposed to be some sort of logo there in the middle. Maybe there's some sort of stuck-on plastic or paper thing that's come off, and it does look sort of Art Deco, but I have a feeling it might be a sort of 1950s sound box. In fact, the whole thing might be 1950s. They did apparently make gramophones up until that sort of time, although certain other features, like the very crude brake, suggest it's a bit earlier. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Mr. RG Stuff.